This lack of definition ends up contaminating the entire environment around Golden State. Because when a franchise gets stuck in this in-between, every decision feels too heavy and, at the same time, insufficient. That's exactly why Kuminga's situation can't be analyzed in isolation. It's a direct reflection of a team that's still trying to understand who it is, how far it can go, and what risk it's willing to take at this point in the season. Internally, the message remains aligned with the idea of competing game by game. The roster has been showing clear signs of better organization, especially on the defensive end, and that has allowed the Warriors to stay alive in games that used to slip away easily. The offense still fluctuates, but there's a greater sense of control in certain moments, something that simply didn't exist in earlier phases of the season. This context helps explain why the front office isn't showing urgency. There's an understanding that acting out of desperation right now could cost far too much. At the same time, leaving everything exactly as it is also carries risks, especially if the internal atmosphere continues to deteriorate around certain players. And that's where the human factor comes in again, something many analyses ignore, but that carries a lot of weight inside an NBA locker room. When a player starts living constantly under rumors, quiet trade requests, and public speculation, it affects not only his performance, but also the collective dynamic. Teammates feel it, coaches feel it, the staff feels it. No matter how professional the environment is, that kind of noise is never completely neutral. And in the Warriors' case, this has dragged on long enough to become real wear and tear. Still, it's important to make it clear that the team's recent performance doesn't point to a collapse. On the contrary, Golden State has found ways to win tough games, showed resilience in critical moments, and in some matchups reminded fans why this core still deserves respect. It's not nostalgia, it's a fact. There's quality there, even if it shows up intermittently. The problem is that the NBA waits for no one. While the Warriors try to get organized, other franchises keep making clear decisions, whether to rebuild or to accelerate timelines. That constant movement creates a scenario where standing still is, in a way, an active choice, and not always the safest one. Looking at the market as a whole, the general impression is caution. Few teams seem willing to make major moves before the deadline. That reduces options and lowers the chance of that unexpected opportunity that completely changes the course of a season. For Golden State, that means any meaningful negotiation would require creativity, patience, and possibly concessions that may not make sense right now. Because of that, the perception grows that the summer could be the real turning point. With more flexibility, less immediate pressure, and a clearer view of the league, decisions tend to be more strategic. Holding on to assets now might look like passivity, but it can also be the smartest way to preserve room to maneuver for deeper changes later. But that logic runs straight into the present again. Because while the future is carefully analyzed, the team steps on the floor every night with players who want to win now. Every win fuels the belief that something bigger is still possible. Every loss reinforces the feeling that maybe one piece is missing, one adjustment, one bolder decision. That constant tension is what defines the Warriors' current moment. It's not an open crisis, but it's not stability either. It's a fragile balance, sustained by competitive performances and by the hope that the group can, somehow, raise its level when it matters most. In this scenario, the front office is walking a thin line. Any misstep can trigger chain reactions. Changing too much can compromise the future. Changing too little can waste a window that, even if smaller than in the past, still exists. And while that decision isn't made, Kuminga's name remains the convergence point for all of these doubts. Not because he's the only problem, but because he represents the choice that still hasn't been made. Keep betting on him, redefine roles, or close the cycle. Every option comes with costs and benefits, and none of them is painless. What is known is that this situation can't drag on indefinitely without impact. The rest of the season will provide important answers. If Golden State can maintain a consistently competitive level, the pressure for reinforcements may increase. If there's a drop in performance, the logic of patience gains strength. One way or another, the next few weeks will be decisive in understanding which direction the franchise intends to take. The fan, naturally, lives this process with anxiety. Anyone who follows the team closely feels that something is in transition, even if it's not yet clear where it's headed. And maybe that's the best definition of the current moment, a silent transition, without grand announcements, but full of decisions that will shape the next few years. That's why watching each game now goes beyond the scoreboard. It's about observing rotations, minutes, reactions, coaching choices, and subtle signs that indicate the path being drawn behind the scenes. Nothing happens by accident in this league, and every detail usually carries more meaning than it seems at first glance. If you want to keep following deep and honest analysis about the Golden State Warriors, leave a like now, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because that makes all the difference in keeping this kind of content coming to you. The basketball world is currently experiencing a moment of upheaval with rumors that, if confirmed, could significantly alter the landscape of the most prestigious league in the world. Among the rumors, unconfirmed sources, and rising expectations, one name echoes with increasing force behind the scenes of one of the most successful franchises in the NBA. Amid the Golden State Warriors' strategic moves for the 2025 season, the possibility arises of the arrival of a unique talent, a young giant from Southeast Asia, with a journey that both moves and excites at the same time. The franchise's moves are not random. This is a calculated, strategic decision that goes beyond simply seeking another player to join the roster. The name that is on the radar of the management carries a symbolism that transcends the lines of the court. He is not just a promising athlete with respectable statistics, but a true emblem of overcoming adversity, representation, and ambition. Standing at an impressive 218 meters tall, the Filipino center has been drawing attention for some time, but now he is on the verge of taking the most important leap of his career. With a playing style that blends physical strength, tactical intelligence, and technical skills uncommon for someone in his position, he has become one of the most talked-about prospects on the international circuit. With an imposing presence in the paint and an intimidating wingspan, his impact is not limited to defense. He also possesses an offensive repertoire that adapts perfectly to the demands of modern basketball. This versatility is his differentiator. While many players of his size remain restricted to actions near the rim, he stands out for his mobility, game reading, and mid-range shooting ability. In a league that increasingly demands offensive breadth and fluidity, his ability to stretch the floor, create space, and facilitate his teammates' movements is a valuable asset. But his true legacy begins outside the statistics. Born in a nation passionate about the sport of basketball, the Asian giant was seen from an early age as a promise of national pride. From his first steps on the court, it was clear that he was not just another tall young man trying to play. He was different. There was talent, yes, but there was also a spark in his eyes that only true enthusiasts possess, an insatiable desire to achieve something greater. This thirst for growth led him to make difficult decisions. As a teenager, at an age when many are still learning to handle basic responsibilities, he left his homeland to pursue a dream that seemed unattainable. He chose to follow the path of excellence, facing different cultures, unknown languages, and physical and mental challenges that would test anyone. His first destination was Australia, where he began to compete in one of the most competitive leagues in the Southern Hemisphere. In the NBL, he proved that he wasn't there just to learn. He wanted to compete, and compete he did. He faced experienced athletes, absorbed technical lessons, and above all, strengthened his resilience. It was during this phase that the young player began to shape himself as a professional, understanding the importance of every detail both on and off the court. His minutes on the court became moments of affirmation. His blocks began to draw attention, as did his ability to think the game with maturity rare for his age. From there, he moved to Japan. The B-League, more structured and with greater international visibility, was the perfect stage for the next chapter of his journey. There, he solidified himself as one of his team's defensive pillars. Local fans, initially curious, became loyal admirers. His numbers were rising, but more than that, his influence off the court was also growing. The young center was starting to become a cultural bridge, an informal ambassador of his homeland and of an entire people who dream alongside him. As time went on, his presence gained the status of an idol, not only for his sporting achievements, but also for the way he carried his heritage with pride, refused to forget where he came from, and used his platform to inspire children and young people from his country. With each interview, each public appearance, his message of perseverance and hard work echoed like a hymn of hope. The eventual arrival of this phenomenon to the Golden State Warriors would be more than just a signing. It would be a watershed moment. The California team has always been associated with a modern style of play, with fast movement, constant position swapping, and a clear focus on long-range shooting. However, they lacked a piece that would complete this puzzle. A dominant presence in the paint, someone who could not only protect the rim efficiently, but also actively participate in offensive constructions with intelligence. The young Filipino could be that piece. His rebounding ability, both defensively and offensively, would provide an immediate boost to a team that depends on quick ball recovery to initiate its lethal fast breaks. His positioning, reading, and timing for jumping would be valuable tools for neutralizing opposing plays. But more than that, his reliable mid-range shooting would open a new dimension to the team's offense, allowing for more creative plays and creating wider spaces for the stars of the team to perform their actions freely. This combination of skills does not go unnoticed. In a league where the concept of the modern center has evolved to something far beyond brute strength in the paint, he represents the future. A player who knows how to move, who understands the fundamentals, and who is willing to sacrifice for the team. His technical fit is almost natural with the team's philosophy, which values players who can contribute in multiple areas, not just in isolated statistics. However, perhaps the most profound impact of his arrival cannot be measured in numbers. The San Francisco Bay Area, home to the team, has one of the largest Filipino communities outside Asia. The significance of seeing a compatriot wear the colors of the region's most popular franchise would be immeasurable for many. It would not be just another player stepping onto the court. It would be the personification of a collective dream. This emotional and cultural bond would become a bridge between the local community and the sports organization, creating a level of engagement that goes beyond the ordinary. It would be possible to see fans who once followed the NBA from afar becoming passionate supporters, connected not only by their love of the game, but also by the pride of seeing someone who represents them on the biggest stage in global basketball. There is also the commercial impact. The presence of a player with international appeal is a goldmine for any sports organization. Sponsors, broadcasts, image rights, jersey sales, everything multiplies when there is a figure who symbolizes more than just talent. With his rising popularity, especially among the youth in Asia, his entry into the NBA could open doors that were previously unexplored, bringing new business, partnerships, and expansion possibilities for the league as a whole. But none of this would be possible if he hadn't had the courage. The courage to leave home early, to face loneliness, homesickness, and the fear of failure. The courage to train harder than others, to accept criticism, to fall and get up countless times. The courage to dream big, even when everything seemed to point in the opposite direction. It is this story of courage that makes him special. It is what makes young people from around the world look at him and feel that they too can try, that they too can chase the impossible, that they too can, one day, wear the uniform of a great NBA franchise and hear their name echo in the stand. If you enjoyed this content and want to learn more about what's happening in the basketball world, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. This way, you'll stay up to date with all the updates, analysis, and much more about players and the big moves in the NBA. See you in the next video.